And hi, everybody. I'm Bud Shaw, as Mike introduced me. Thank you, Mike, for that introduction. And yeah, I'm an across-the-board JDE guy, and really more on the functional business analyst kind of end of stuff. So things like workflow on the glass, orchestrator, some of the form personalization, extension, those end user tools are right where I like to be. Because I can make a difference in the way the system behaves and works for our users, with this low code, no code approach, and really removing customizations from the development client. A lot of what's going on in JDE and the tools side is a move away from the fat, what we used to call or still call the fat client, right? So where we're at, you're seeing things like, form personalizations, these things up here in the Orchestrator Studio, right? In the release 22, AKA tools, 9261 and beyond, along with things like logic extensions, they included the workflow studio in the Orchestrator Studio. So so this is kind of a flow and a continuing stream of enhancements of JD. And so you can see down in here under where we're talking about today in year 2022, workflow really started in release 22 at the end of 2021 in October, when they put Workflow Studio into the Orchestrator Studio. It was basic at that time, and it keeps getting enhanced. You could only see the workflows, you could modify them, and activate them and deactivate them. They keep on enhancing that area. So then I think it was 9263, they actually gave you the capability to create from scratch a workflow, right? Where you had the create a workflow. And of course, all these, and now it's moving along, workflows managed by the Web OMW, the P98220W application, and they're continuing to enhance it. One of the big ones, and I'm looking forward to coming at the end of this year in release 23, which will be tools 9271, is the capability to call an orchestration from a workflow. So they keep on enhancing it. You can now, in the tools that I'm showing you, 9264 is my current release, because they haven't released 9271 yet. I can add and call a workflow from a logic extension, which really is, if you can think about that, gives you the capability to start building an application with workflow to make an application, make a process within JDE, but what I'm going to share with you here is a little bit of the shortcomings with the current state of the Workflow Studio, right? So this is just talking about what you can do. So if you need to add logic in there, you can use the call business functions from and other things from the logic extensions. And if you don't know what logic extensions are, come join one of our new our upcoming release 22 workshops, or I think I've done a recording of it, a webinar, that kind of explains what it is. So simplifying navigation and streamlining the user process. And all of these, including this one, because for me, workflow was always kind of a pain, right? If you need, like I said, I'm not technical, so I don't spend much time going onto the dev client, the Windows-based client, right? And when you used to have to go in and do a modification or try to create a workflow, you had to go into that Windows client to do that. There was a thing called Workflow Modeler. I found it clumsy and difficult to use. And so it was a challenge, but that has now gone away as Workflow Studio is in the Orchestrator Studio, and as it keeps on enhancing. But all those are to reduce the dependency on the dev client. You can deploy applications from the web OMW. You can promote UDOs. You can do, and even now these workflows are going to be UDOs that are managed that way. So they'll be more portable, more upgradable, and all of these things are going to, just reduce the time and dependency on IT. The reduction in the skill set required. I'm excited because I understand enough about workflows, and there's some pieces that are required for a workflow, which are the data structures. There's a key data structure, and then a data structure. The key data structure being, who are the users? What do I send this workflow to? And then the secondary, the non-key data structure is, okay, what do I do once somebody approves or whatnot? What's the data? What's the business function that I call to update JD Edwards, after the workflow has been acted upon, So those are now moved into the Workflow Studio, and making it easier to handle and deal with that way, and be able to modify. I'm going to show you an example of a workflow change and modification in just a few minutes. So as you see, the JD Edwards Orchestrator Studio, there's a few new icons out here, logic extensions, attachments. A lot can be done with media objects, and I'm not going to get into the other enhancements for Orchestrator Studio, but workflows are now managed and handled, modified, created, and worked with by the icon off what we're calling Workflow Studio off to Orchestrator Studio. Very similar to the old diagram and the old functions work, but there's new enhancements in the way it navigates and the way you work with it. It's just a more user-friendly way to work with it. And like I said, that's one of the reasons I want to go in and show you a live example of a workflow change, right? So this is just an example of the workflow. There's a start, and then if it's approved, if we approve it, it's going to do some update. In this case, this is a credit limit revision. When somebody changes the credit limit on a customer, the credit manager is responsible to approve that change before it gets updated in the system. And then this is just an info message to the requester that says, your request has been approved. Well, one of the things I've seen and worked with in customers in the past is, why can't we, we're using emails for messages coming in and out of the system. Why can't we send a message to our customer automatically once the workflow is done, and let the customer know that their credit limit has been increased? Well, I'm going to show you how you can effect that change to this credit limit workflow and put it into play using the Workflow Studio. This is one of the things I've also been excited about. So here is an example of a logic extension that I put together. And now you can see here where I've highlighted, you can add a workflow, a call within the logic extension. So this was another one for a customer that they had special products. And when somebody ordered that special product, they wanted to trigger, only when that happened, they wanted to trigger a sales order approval workflow to approve the sales order for this special product. Well, if you understand and know about JD Edwards sales order entry and all of the hold codes available, there is not one that says, oh, based on this product type, in which this case was a sales category code SRP1, if it equaled special product, it would trigger the workflow. So this is the logic extension that sets up some values. It selects reads through the sales order entry tables, and if it's a special product order, it will trigger the workflow and start the workflow. from within the logic extension. That can be scheduled to run at any point in time, can be triggered off the sales order entry program, and so forth and so on. So more moving towards the Orchestrator Studio and that area, rather than going to a fat client. This is just that example of the now, and this is coming. You can see here, it's not there yet. I'm excited about it because the two shortcomings, which I'll point out in my next slide, are that you need to have the data structures and you need to then have a business function to update the data. Well, we're still at this point in time today are still done in the FAT client, right? In the Windows client, right? But now with release 23, tools 9270 or 1, whatever they call when they release it out, you will be able to call an orchestration from the workflow, effectively eliminating the need for the business function, because an orchestrator can, read files, update data, and do things like that, especially with the logic extension. And then they're going to allow in the 9270, 9271 release the capability to add your data structure using the WebOMW, the P98220 U application, right? So that will, those two pieces will now allow you to create a workflow from scratch using the data structure from the WebOMW and the workflow the capability to call a business function to eliminate, to call an orchestration to eliminate the business function within the workflow to update data. So I'm looking forward to those. Be coming soon. I mean, we're almost into October. I know, and I'm expecting in around In Focus, which is what, in 2 or 3 weeks, that we will see these releases coming out. Right? So what I thought I would do then, in case you have not seen workflow on the glass, aka Workflow Studio, I would show you a modification of an existing workflow and how that would work. So I'll look at the chat. I don't see any questions. Oh, let me use a different browser here. Okay, so I'm going to go into my current tools release. This is 9264 release, where they've got the newest features, and as I even in here I can have the logic extension that calls a workflow. But as I pointed out in my screenshot of this before, here is the workflow icon to modify all workflows. So all the workflows that are in your JDE system are now visible out here. And allow you to modify, create. See, there's a new button where you can create a new one. You can take and create a copy and save an existing one and change it, and work within the studio as it is now, right? So I was talking about that example of the customer wanting to be notified once a credit limit change was accepted and approved. And so you can see here the active workflow for credit limit increase is credit limit version 1. There's another version, credit limit version 2. There's another one, credit limit version 9. Those are inactive. So the active workflow that is being called when somebody changes a credit limit amount on a customer is this one, right? So you can see here, if I go in here, so now the first thing you'll want to do when you want to modify the workflow is to deactivate it, right? So it's then not going to get called while this is going on. And the beauty of this concept of these all being UDOs is you can do this in your dev environment and then use the WebOMW to promote this to production or test, just like you would using a FAT client, but you're using it in the web client. So all web-based, not having to go off and do a package build and deploy and all those other kind of things in here. So once you deactivated it, you can reserve it and allows you to work on it, right? So these are the different pieces in here. This is the diagram. You can call a report. You can add a business function in here, local processor, but I'm gonna just keep it simple here. I'm going to rearrange this, adjust the diagram, right? So this is once it's up, if it's approved, it's going to update and whatnot. And then if I wanted to now, once it's accepted, I wanted an info message to go to the customer. You can drag and drop that info message in and put it right in line in the transition, right? And even then adjust it a little bit to make it be a little more friendly to use. So this is a new info message that you want to then, what do you want to do with it? You want to send an info message to the customer that their credit limit has been increased or changed, right? When you have these icons, you can work with them, and you'll always see a little pencil here that means you want to edit it, right? So this is the edit the workflow. I haven't done anything except added it in here. So so we're going to go in here, and who do I want the recipient to be? We can have it be an address book number, right? This is just the way this works. And then the data structure that's along with this includes the customer number, because that's the workflow the workflow that would go to the approver, customer number 4201 or whoever it is. Somebody has requested their credit limit increase. So we could then get the subject, credit limit has been increased, right? We can do that. That's the subject, and then the text, your credit limit has been approved. Your credit limit, let's say credit limit increase has been approved, right? And then in the body of the message, we can add some information in here in the mapping for the message, right? So in the mapping, let's pick a message. I think the standard one, and I can look it up here, but I know what it was. I looked it up before I was going to do this 1, 2. So based on that credit limit approval message, right? That's the message that was created. You can create the messages in the web OMW now and or in the fact client, but you can do that in here. And then with that message, there's some mapping that you're gonna key in here, right? So this is the one is gonna go to the customer, customer AN8, right? The second one is the customer name. So, you would make it personal, right? And then the third parameter, I believe, is the credit limit, the new credit limit amount, so they know what it's been increased to. Right. So we've done that and made those change in here. This is if you were, there's some other things in there, just so you understand, this is where you would have the shortcut for an approval, or, go to that, maybe this was a purchase order approval or something like that, the P43081, that kind of thing. But you go ahead and make your changes. Now, you don't have to save this. It's automatically saved them for you. Once you have your changes made, you can then save the change to the workflow, right? We can then release the reservation on it and then activate it. That's just telling you that there's an old send message in here that's, been predicated by, by the newer info message, but the old message still works, right? So to see this in action, I'm going to go right from here and into my JD Edwards environment. It's logging me in as this JDE user, right? So if I go into my system here and I go to customer master information, and let's say I want to call increase the address, the user, right? And I think I wanted to do this guy, 4201. Right, so Centurion Enterprises. So I'm, playing a little role here, right? Centurion Enterprises asked me to increase their credit limit, by $1,000 or whatever. So when you go into your customer master, you're going to change it. And let's change it. I think the workflow triggers after $750. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go to 6,000. And when we change this, we're going to get the message that, your changes have been submitted and are pending review, right? So that's the first step in our workflow. Now, the user who does this, and this ideally, this would come through email. I'm in a demo system that I really don't have emails coming in and out of here, but we can use the Work Center to demonstrate this, the workflow, the workflow process. So I'm going to sign out. I'm going to log in as another user here. And this is the user. And like I said, we normally would, this really should go to an email where you would click on the link and go to it. But you can come in here, credit management. Here's the initial workflow message. The credit limit change we requested from 5,000 to 6,000, right, on today's date. As this user, this is the credit manager. We can go into, you see any text that came along with it, and we can accept or reject it. So as we accept it, now if you remember the change we made to the workflow, it's going to go ahead and trigger a message off to Centurion Enterprises. And again, I would go to email, but in this case, I'm going to log in as this user who is Centurion Enterprises. You can see up in the corner here. That's my user name, and this is just in instead of going to email, right? And I can look at the Work Center for this one because that's the default for this customer, right? And maybe you're using, the JD CSS customer self-service portal or something like that. You would, they might go and you might give them Work Center access, but ideally you just use the email, right? So in here in their personal in basket, because I didn't declare which one it has, you can see here the credit limit for customer has been approved for $6,000. That's the message that came out of it. I really don't have any action to take after this. That's the message that came out of it. But we can go to the full message text in here, right? Been approved. You can see my typo in there. So we would go back and reserve that, deactivate it, reserve it, and make the change appropriately to it. You can, back in workflows, do a new one, and I think I had an example of here of one that I've created new. Which I can't remember what I called it, but we can create a new one, and then you can add your data structures is where you enter your key data structure, right? Whatever that may be. Then you could add your other data structure, your additional data structure. This is where you would then start mapping it out. But to get started, you have to have those data structures in there. With a little more time, I could go through and create this. Maybe I'll do another webinar and actually show you creating a workflow from scratch. And ideally, I hope to do this when I can do the data structure and have the capability. See, this one doesn't allow me to, I don't have the option to call it orchestration yet, because this is not that late, that 9271 tools release that Oracle is promising coming out soon. So, okay. So that was what I had for this overview. Again, where you're at with 9264, you can create new workflows. You need to have a couple data structures, and you need to have your business function. And those were still at this release done back in the Windows client, in the FAT client. In the release 23 coming out like a month, we should be able to, and I mean I was on there, I mean it's planned, it's going to be released, be able to do the whole data structures, business function, and replace that with an orchestration and create create a workflow from scratch without going into a web client. So any questions? I don't see anything in the chat. Anything in the Q&A, Mike?
Nope, nothing's come through on the Q&A yet.
Okay. Yeah, stay tuned. As soon as I get my hands on the 9271, and I have a good tech resource that will update my environment real quick. So we should stay tuned. And as soon as I get that, I'll be showing you building a workflow from scratch, because we can do it now, but you still need to know your data structure, still need to do your business function. And maybe I'll do another webinar on that one, but for now, this is what I wanted to show you. So with that, with no questions, I'll turn it back to you, Mike.
Sure. Well, I was just going to say, to advance to the next slide, we've got Orchestrator, Managed Services, Special Pricing, and feel free to reach out to your account rep or anyone here really at GSI will help you out. So if there aren't any questions, this video also will be available within 24 hours on our YouTube channel. And I think that, I thought I removed that slide. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, what I do like to show, though, hang on a second.
Yes, is next. I was just going to say the next. I was going to go to that at the end, is to just anything you have coming up, Bud, that you're aware of as far as you're doing a bunch of InFocus stuff too, if I recall.
Yeah, there's several sessions at InFocus,
but yeah, this webinar will be available.
Do we have these hands-on for if you've never done an orchestration? You can come to our getgsi.com website, go underneath JD Edwards, right? And then that is conferences and events, right? So here is a release 23. This is where you can get your hands on a logical extension in an orchestrator. We also go through all of the enhancements that came out in release 22 and what we know about 23. This is, if you've never done an orchestrator from scratch, Thursday, November 10th, come join in, sign up. I will go over orchestrator topics and then give you an exercise and access to an environment, and you will build your first orchestration. And it's not a wimpy orchestration. It's pretty good, very usable. So those are the two sessions we have coming up. And then there's a lot of also, webcasts that you can come and see, go in here. These are new visual applications. I think I did one. Oh, here's the one we're just doing today, right? So, and they'll be recorded out here. There's a lot of these I've done, and a lot of ones other people have done as well. So please come to our website, as you did to sign up for this one, and look at some of the other ones. This one will be posted out there. And if I do another one on, creating a workflow from scratch, you'll see that out there as well. So.
Wonderful. Well, everyone, we will wrap up for today. We really appreciate your attendance, and you should be getting a message from us that this webinar has been posted online and is available on demand. So thanks everybody for joining. Bud, thank you for your time as always, and have a great rest of the day and Friday and weekend to everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye now.